But like, yeah, I was gonna be the sixth Backstreet Boy, but then Ryan and AJ didn't like me very much, so
I mean, it is still kind of cool though that you do get $20,000 per YouTube video. That's what Disney pays you, I thought you said.
yeah. Well, when I was leaving the Backstreet Boys, I told them I want it that way, and now I just get the money for it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I didn't know Disney cared so much about like the Rusan Reformations and nerd shit like that, but here we are.
Yeah, they bought the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what or what your contract was with Lucasfilm beforehand, but mine was pretty bad because they were funding Thrawn's Revenge, obviously, as long as I only put in canon stuff and then tried to pretend it was Legends.
Yeah,
like people still don't realize that the original Thrawn trilogy was new canon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, that's the thing. And like the Nebula Star Destroyer is clearly seen in that shot over Starkiller Base.
Yeah. Well, that was because J.J. Abrams was just tracing fan art for the ships in Force Awakens. That's why some of them look like a toddler cut them out with scissors. And not even regular scissors, like the weird zigzag scissors
the zigzag
on the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, oh, shit, the podcast is starting.
We've been live this whole time. Yeah. All right.
That was the longest we've ever done.
Man, 6 o'clock really sneaks right up on you.
But hello there, everyone. And welcome. That doesn't work for a podcast intro, does it?
No, sorry.
Oh, well. All right, everyone take a drink. Every time one of us screws up the intro, take a drink.
Let me start then. Let me do the intro. Just joking.
No, we'd be drinking forever. I had to explain that just in case the joke didn't really land with everyone, but clear comms.
Yeah.
Hello there, and welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast available. Believe us, we've looked. Actually, there's some other people who claim to have Star Wars podcasts that talk to each other a lot on Twitter, and they almost never, they never include us. So I'm kind of offended.
I think it's an insecurity thing, but if you look on the live stream on YouTube right now, it very clearly says Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast, and it's on YouTube.
Could we lie on YouTube? Would a Star Wars YouTuber lie to you? Think about that.
No, of course not. You don't know. You don't get money or fame or anything else talking about Star Wars. The only thing you get is a sense of pride and accomplishment, and that fan connection. So I don't think anybody would ever take advantage of that.
Yeah. So should we start off by talking about the news that George Lucas is making a new sequel?
I didn't hear that. Do you want to expand on that, Corey? That sounds really epic.
No, because it's not happening. But today we're going to be talking about Darth Bane. So we are starting off, of course, with Path of Destruction. Then we have Rule of Two is the second one, and Dynasty of Evil is the third one. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about Rule of Two. 2 weeks from then, we're going to be talking about Dynasty of Evil. I'm going to alternate between pronouncing it as Dynasty and Dynasty so that everyone can tell me I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, So
what is it that we're doing next week, Corey?
Do you want to do the TV episode that we skipped?
Yes.
Or do you want to see if, because I saw you responded to Ian Fraser's tweet about the microphone he got, but you said if he wants to talk about Star Wars books, and you really left out, like, we could have just done a Star Wars Squadrons preview episode with Ian, and I don't know if he's going to want to come on to talk about a book. But
I asked him. I think he said his favorite book was the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah,
don't show him my rankings.
Yeah, he said it had been a while since he read it, but yeah, I'll talk to him. I mean, it would be really cool to get him on at some point, and he's super into Legends and stuff. So, I mean, I could definitely see that happening.
That would be pretty epic.
Very epic.
Do you want to do TV next week, or is there another topic that's been eating away at your soul that you want to use this platform to
They really did cover? Recently just announce that there will be a new Star Wars holiday special.
That is true. A Lego one.
Which I think will actually be like unironically good. But obviously probably wait till that comes out to discuss it. I want to talk about this Herman Cain stuff. Have you seen that?
How he was tweeting about Biden
Yeah,
after
well,
2 weeks after he
yeah. So
died.
yeah, he's dead. And Mark from the Temple Institute, I wrote a tweet about it. Then Mark said, "The dead speak," and it made me lose it. There's also another somebody else tweeted something.
Friend of the show, Mark from the Temple
Yes,
Institute.
friend of the show, Mark.
Frequent guest.
Frequent guest.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
many frequent flyer miles.
The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, a threat of revenge in the voice of Herman Cain. So probably not worth the whole episode, but I did want to kind of use my platform to just, enlighten the galaxy that dark ages are coming as the Cain gang reasserts itself and begins blowing up post office and across the America.
Yeah, like I haven't gotten a call from my mom in 2 years, but Herman Cain can still tweet.
Yeah,
This is some bullshit.
jeez, yeah, that is bullshit. Of all people, Herman Cain. Come on. When I die, please don't use me to shill for some politician, especially if that politician played a role in my death.
What if we did some like Billy Mays stuff with the EckhartsLadder Twitter after you die?
That'd be fun.
So
That would be fun.
you just get your account. Is it in your contract, your sponsorship, that when you die, just pure ramen tweets all the time?
I mean, it's not yet, but I feel like that's a good opportunity for some extra value, Like I can get maybe a bit more a month if they know they're going to have me forever. Like
That's true.
even once I slide off this mortal coil, like they'll still have their paws into me, which kind of like the idea of Gus will be fat off ramen even long after I'm gone.
Yeah, Gus's kids, kids.
Yeah. That's what you call generational ramen wealth.
Generational sodium.
Generational sodium. Hey, I'll have you know that actually Veet ramen is very low in sodium, especially when compared to other comparable noodle brands.
Is any noodle brand truly comparable, though? I think not.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Corey, I'm going to put you
Send me
in
my
contact
check.
with somebody.
Yeah. I would like to say now that I have never eaten ramen in my life, and I'm not.
Really? You've never eaten ramen before?
I have not.
How come? Do you think you'd like it?
I don't know. Most noodle things just kind of fall off my radar. Other than
fair
like
enough.
spaghetti and stuff.
I
But
bet you there's lots of ramen in Ottawa.
yeah, there's a lot of ramen, a lot of shawarma, actually. There's a shawarma place everywhere in Ottawa.
I had shawarma today. I love it.
I didn't. So in Niagara, there's nothing. Like I had never heard of shawarma until I got to Ottawa, and then there's like one on every corner, a shawarma shop, shawarma shop.
Shawarma shop.
Especially around the University of Ottawa, because I lived on campus first year, and there's like two that are just right there.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost
Well,
as
that's
common
like-
as bars.
The
around
whiter you
university.
get in Canada, the worse the food gets. So like go to somewhere like Toronto, the food is amazing. When I lived in Toronto, there used to be like these food cars that would come in front of my office every day. And one day it would be like Jamaican food, the other day it would be like Mexican street food, like corn all done up, and then one day it would be like Ethiopian food. And then like Halifax is okay because we still have we've got a lot of immigrants here. Like there's a really big Lebanese population and there's like a really big Greek population, so we've got lots of interesting food options. Then you go to buttfuck Nova Scotia and it's like, yeah, we got pizza maybe. Probably just McDonald's though.
Yeah. Like Niagara at least has a lot of Italian restaurants, but it's all Italian restaurants. And my family owns a lot of them.
Did I tell you about the time when I went to Niagara Falls and when I was living in Toronto and they tried to get me with that
tourist tax?
The tourist tax?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not paying this.
So for anyone who ever goes to Niagara, there's a tourist tax that is applied to pretty much every restaurant does it. You don't have to pay this. If you see it on your bill, tell them to take it off and they have to. So just
It's pretty substantial too. Isn't it like 25%?
So it's not a standard thing really. It's like people just throw it on and it's like, "Oh, look, this is the thing." No, it's not. Don't pay it. Do not pay it. That is my advice to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will give you some shit too, because they, at least where I was at it was an Italian place, I forget where it was, like Eastside Mario's or something, Italian in quotes. And yeah, they gave me a lot of shit for trying to not pay it.
Yeah.
But it's the same in like Vegas does something similar. But yeah, Corey's right, you don't have to pay
Yeah,
it.
it's like a courtesy thing. It just means you don't have to pay it. Just tell them you don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
And if worst comes to worst, just say you live there.
Yeah.
Then they might see your driver's license and
yeah,
tell you don't. But either way. Anyways, what do you think about Darth Bane?
Pretty edgy. He would not be paying a tourist tax, so that's for sure.
No, I think that's actually why he got to Korriban and was so upset.
You know what I think of Darth? Oh, sorry.
He just got to Dresde and then didn't want to pay.
Yeah, he's like, this was supposed to have fine Sith cuisine, not this knockoff shit.
Have you tried the Tukata stew?
Also, yeah, okay, so there's a part where Bane is lost on Korriban, essentially. He's not eating, but he killed like 3 Tukata.
Yeah.
Like, just eat one, bro.
Yeah, so I guess we did talk about last time with Alex that we covered a book, whether or not we should do just a quick rundown of what the book's about at the start of the episode. So probably won't do more than a minute or two with each. We'll probably adjust how we do it every time just to kind of see what works and what doesn't. But essentially, this book takes place 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, where there is a war still going on between the Jedi and Sith. The Sith are kind of different than they've been in the past, where they're united under the Brotherhood of Darkness, led by Lord Khan, who's kind of brainwashing a lot of the Sith, using kind of a variation of battle meditation, and just I might be reading too much into how much he's actually altering the mental state with it, but yeah, he's kind of mind-fucking everyone into working together. And the story is essentially of how Darth Bane first joins the Sith, going from just a guy on a mining colony to joining the Sith army, into joining the Sith Academy on Korriban, and then leading to him helping to wipe out the Brotherhood of Darkness, put himself in charge of the Sith, and instituting the Rule of Two, which the next book goes a lot more into. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that kind of references Knights of the Old Republic. It almost reads like you're doing an after-action report of someone playing Knights of the Old Republic with a different story. Because you can get a lot of like the Sith, the classes from KOTOR, Tor, and like the Force powers. There's a battle at the end where Lord Hoth, the leader of the Jedi forces, uses Force stasis and rolls a natural 20 to keep a Dark Jedi suspended in the air. So there's a lot like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the last like third, everything on Ruusan is also essentially a direct remake of the Jedi versus Sith comics from I think the early 2000s. Like it's pretty much the exact same story. It starts off with the scene where Bane is slaughtering that family. That's I think the first issue of the comic, and then it goes a little bit later. It goes into, from what I remember, it's like the first few chapters of book 2, because like we get a bit more with Xana and whatever else. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of things being brought in here. You do get a lot of Knights of the Old Republic stuff in the beginning. Even the way they describe like the temple on Korriban is like the exact same as it is in the game, which I mean it's kind of nice. I enjoyed that. It was a nice bit of referencing, I guess. And you of course visit Li Han, and there's lots of Revan references, even though he's been dead by 3,000 years at this point.
Yeah, and the Republic is still using these same hammerheads and oryx in this war as they did in KOTOR. They're still like the hammerheads are like the main capital ship.
Yeah, I mean, I think this actually we don't really learn a whole lot about the Sith ships, but yeah, well, they do explicitly say hammerhead, don't they? I mean, quite old at this point.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts about when he's slaughtering that family is like he goes from there to the healer, and there's a part after he's leaving the healer because Githany has poisoned him, so he needed the help of the healer to get the poison out, to get the antidote. And the way he makes the healer help him is by threatening to kill his daughter.
Mhm.
Because apparently of all the other Jedi and Sith that this guy has refused, no one else was smart enough to catch on that this guy was like looking towards the other room and there might be something he's trying to protect.
Yeah.
It seemed a little flimsy, and maybe this guy
Mhm.
was only dealing with complete idiots before, and Bane is like one step above complete idiot. But
I'll tell you what. I know what happened. I can explain to you what happened if you want.
okay,
If you
go
want.
for it. Go for it.
So, I don't know if you picked up on this, but there's like 3 points in the book where Darth Bane is described as an adult as having his teeth knocked out, like out of his mouth. So presumably by the time he gets on, I forget which planet that is. It's before he goes to Rusan. By that time, Darth Bane's got like 3 teeth left in his mouth because teeth aren't regenerating in Bacta or anything like that. So the guy was probably just tired of looking at his dumbass smile the whole time.
All right.
Yeah.
Eck
Plus
taking a strong anti-toothless person stance.
No, the real reason is because Darth Bane is like 6'8", and the healer had a basketball net, and Darth Bane would have dunked on him, no questions asked.
So basically, there's part of the book that we didn't see where Darth Bane just reenacts most of Like Mike with this guy.
Well, I mean, Mike's really short, and Darth Bane's, as we learn many, many times, is quite large.
Yes. Quite large, but not quite as large as... which one was the slightly larger one? Was it one of the Sith Lords?
Yeah, it was the... I already forget all their name.
Because it wasn't Kimsik or Cordit. Was it Cordit? No, Cordis was taller than him. He just wasn't as big. That was, I think, the...
There's the Twi'lek, who's kind of a bit... Who's beefy.
Yeah, he's beefy, but he's not as big as Bane. But he was still the beefiest Twi'lek that Bane had ever seen. Bane had seen some beefy Twi'leks, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working in the mines of Patros, you get big, boy.
But yeah, so he...
Kopej is the Twilight, I think. Or the Twi'lek, I think.
But yeah, so he refrains from killing the healer and his daughter. First, he says that might need him later, but also because killing people like that would be pointless. Meanwhile, he's murdered the entire family to get their Land Rover, and he did it to get some dark side energy as well. But I wasn't exactly sure on how the that translated. It was like he was channeling the aggression to get, like, he talks a bit about how the dark side feeds itself, where you do the aggressive action, which makes you angrier, or more hate, whatever emotion, not element, whatever emotion you want to apply to it, anger, hate, spite, eroticism, and then that kind of makes him...
They do specifically say lust and love.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, what's one of the problems I have with this book is it's pretty gamey with like how it treats the dark side and really the light side of the Force, which I guess is fine, but like it probably goes into a little bit too much detail with all of this stuff. I think it kind of works for the book, but I don't know how I feel about that generally. Like, I kind of like the... People are going to hate that I say this, but I kind of like the more mystical approach that the new canon has sort of taken with the Force generally. And that is something that Legends did sometimes. But then again, there's like, in Fate of the Jedi, you've got Luke and Ben going on the... recreating Jason's spirit trek across the galaxy.
Yeah.
And learning all of these techniques and stuff. Which is cool, but it gets to the whole, you know, like leveling up Star Killer type of thing that a lot of people kind of have problems with.
Yeah, but the part of Bane's problem with the other Sith in how they're handling the dark side and turning away from the ancient Sith ways, because Bane's main thing is that by this society of equals, which they don't actually act like they're equals. The other Sith Lords act like they're equal-ish among each other, but then there's still a clear hierarchy within that, and they're all under Khan. But Bane is acting like the other Sith have neglected the other, like the main ways the Sith would get power before, and not using like cunning and deception. But like Khan is just mind-fucking everyone into working for him. So Bane's problem with the Sith is really a misunderstanding of how the Brotherhood of Darkness is functioning. So I don't know if that was just dramatic irony for our purpose, or if Drew Karbashin wasn't actually thinking of it that way. But like, there's a lot that Bane does here, and you can look for... I did a video for Sunday about how Bane's idea was kind of wrong and they were doomed to fail no matter what they did. But I'm not sure if it was intended to be portrayed that way or if it's just a side effect of what happens. But yeah. I didn't leave this book with a lot of respect for Bane.
I go back and forth because I do get some of his point. Okay, on one hand, the Brotherhood of Darkness. So just to explain for people who haven't read the book, at this point, there's, it's the Old Republic. So of course the Sith and the Jedi are fighting. It takes the form of the Brotherhood of Darkness in the Sith, and then the Jedi eventually form a corresponding Army of Light. And much of the book takes place on this sort of final showdown on the planet of Ruusan, where all of the Brotherhood of Darkness is there and many of the Jedi. And it does sort of seem like the Brotherhood of Darkness are on their way to winning. I think Bane, I don't like the Sith that much as I guess as main characters in a book, because they're obviously not relatable. They're quite edgy, I guess. But Bane's argument is that the Sith are really only successful, one, if they work in the shadows, like you said, which I think is debatable how much Lord Khan is doing that. It seems like he is. But there needs to be, you need to allow individuals to grow extremely powerfully and powerful. And his argument is that if everyone is equal, then no one is truly powerful, which he never really explains that or goes into that. I don't know if you could have a Sith order where people are able to grow as powerful as Bane did, or if he's right, and if someone does get that powerful and there are a bunch of minions below him, whether they'll eventually come together to destroy the more powerful being.
Yeah, as part of the problem with the rule of two is that even the Sith Lords that sort of follow it, they still have their minions under them, and the apprentice is still going to try to team up with his minions to take down the master. It's really just taking a bunch of people who are being encouraged to not play by the rules and telling them, no, this rule you need to play by, which obviously they're not going to. And there was even a conversation between Bane and Crate later in one of the Legacy comics where Bane is telling Crate, if you think that you can share all this power in any kind of way, then you're an idiot. By not just taking it all for yourself, you're doing it wrong. But Bane's thing about working from the shadows, I think for the most part, I agree with that. The Sith, if they want to be successful, they need to be limited in working from the shadows. But Bane was applying that primarily to beating the Jedi, because his thing was that they would never beat the Jedi as an open force because it unifies the Jedi as something to fight against. And I agree with that. I think he's right that the rule of two and what they did for the next 1,000 years was how you need to take down the Jedi. The problem is he was still thinking about working towards what Palpatine ultimately did, and that still involves the Sith coming out of hiding later and kind of declaring the Sith Empire. Whereas if they really want to be successful, they the kind of peak of what the Sith should have been doing was Palpatine and what Palpatine and Dooku were doing during the Clone Wars, and trying to prolong that.
Yeah, well,
rather than just
in Plagueis, where
off.
There's kind of that discussion where Plagueis's master, basically his plan was to have the Sith kind of take over the galaxy completely from the shadows, basically through the use of computers and stuff like that. And then it was kind of, I think Plagueis wanted to go the more hidden Sith route, and then Palpatine decided to be a bit more overt.
Plagueis was the only good Sith Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is tough because the Sith did seem to be doing reasonably well, and Bane's argument is, again, if you've got multiple Sith, more than two, then the lesser Sith will come together to destroy the more powerful master. But in that case, isn't it still more power than if you have just two? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if they are powerful enough to destroy the master, I mean, unless it's just you've really got to. One of the main problems with this book is you've really got to agree with what Bane goes with, because you don't really get the other perspectives. You get them early on, but Bane's always kind of this might be bullshit.
Yeah, there's a bit of a dichotomy in the way that Bane especially sees the Sith, where you can either talk about the ability to maximize the power for the Sith or the ability to maximize the power for yourself. And fundamentally, the way Bane typically sees it is that the Sith are a pathway to maximize the power for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But in the way he executes his stuff and the way he tries to plan for the future, he tries to present that as maximizing the success for the Sith, because the idea is like, okay, even if I'm not successful, I'm setting up the Sith for success. Yeah. But if the reason that he's doing this is to maximize his own success, he could probably get more for himself by exercising his power differently in the short term. Because I think it's a bit weird to use Revan as the example, as like the originator of what became the rule of 2.
Right, because Revan had lots of other Sith under him.
Yeah. And like there was just Revan and Malak as the Darths, but there were a lot of other Sith operatives, and the reasons that Revan was doing what he was doing, at least initially, and even if you take like the later explanations like Vitiate and Valkorion, which I don't love, but either way, whatever you go with, Revan was being more utilitarian about how he saw the dark side. And the way that he's presented in the holocron that Bane finds and the way Bane takes his teachings, it isn't really super in line with the, like, Bane, a lot of Bane's anger at the Brotherhood of Darkness in particular is that they're throwing away the way the Sith used to operate, but the way that Bane is suggesting the Sith operates is so far removed from how any of the previous Sith had operated that it's kind of hypocritical of him.
Yeah, like I think he does have a bit of room for those kind of minions, because he does say that like there will be a master and an apprentice as the 2 Sith lords, then they can have, you know, their agents and their minions, which I guess, but even still, like that kind of doesn't fully capture.
It's more about labeling. Like it's really just a difference in labeling, and maybe you're hiding a bit more information from people, but because
even still, like I don't understand why there has to be only 2 Sith in the entire galaxy either way. Like, why not have divergent Sith? Like, you know, I don't think Bane needed to kill everybody else. I get why he did, because he saw them sort of as a stain. But he could have found, you know, he could have found Xana and just went off and did his own thing. I think he kind of alludes to maybe the idea that the Force is like more powerful if it's literally concentrated in one person. And because there are so many Sith that that it's diluted in many people. I think there's something similar to that in Plagueis maybe mentioned as well. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion that the book has. It's just, and the book I think is written really well. I think I mentioned this to you when I was reading it. I felt like it was written very, very well, especially for a genre book and for a Star Wars book. But I think the Sith are kind of weak as main characters, because we get characters like Githany, who's just like very annoying. It's the same thing with Vistara Kai in Fate of the Jedi. She's a Sith, so everything she does is going to be double crossing, and it's like, oh, when Bane double crosses her, or when Bane gets double crossed by her, he's happy because he realizes, oh, she's acting like a Sith, and it's not very relatable as a reader. It just comes off as like, I don't really know how to explain it.
I think with Githany, there's like, she's a former Jedi. She joined the Sith because her affair with her partner gets discovered, but then it's like just complete flip of the switch into like full Sith mode. And I kind of think of it as like, even if you compare it to Anakin or Ahsoka, people who Anakin went full Sith, Ahsoka was kicked out of the Jedi Order, but Ahsoka didn't go like from Jedi to just full dark side because of what happened to her, and Anakin didn't go full Sith just because, like, there were other underlying reasons in this transition there. Even if I don't think the Anakin transition was handled perfectly, I think there was you get a bit more of an idea of what went behind his transformation from just from being a Jedi to being a Sith. Whereas Githany, it's like, she just ends up seeming like someone who, no matter what the specifics of her leaving the Jedi would be, was always going to end up as a Sith anyways, and yet was super trusted by the Jedi.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I just don't find a character with no moral nuance to be very compelling. Like, that's why even Vader in his most evil, you know, he has those moments where a little bit of the good shines through, and that's him at his very worst. It's the same with Jason. You know, he's evil when he turns into Kaidos, but he's still, you know, deep down a good guy. But with Bane, you know, we get a bit of that early on, but when he goes full dark side, you know, he's slaughtering he's slaughtering children and feels no remorse about it whatsoever. And that's kind of who his character becomes for like pretty much then on. And I just don't think that that's a very interesting character, at least to me. And that's the main problem that I have with this book. And I actually really, really enjoy the first 2/3. Like that scene, the Sabak scene on Apatros, like it's way too long, but I loved every minute of it. And same with like the Sith army stuff. But once he goes full Sith Lord, it just becomes a little less interesting for me.
Yeah, like he's kind of the embodiment of the brute force elements of the Sith, which is weird considering how much time he does spend talking about the deception and the cunning elements of being a Sith. And like he doesn't really do that much of it himself, other than when he's in the battle with Saram, the Zabrak, and or he pretends to be weaker, but that's just the combat expression of it. He doesn't really operate as a person in that way very often. And when he tries to, it's very transparent. Like the message that he sent back to Lord Khan was like over the top. And again, Lord Khan was the one doing all these things that he's talking about being what it should mean to be a Sith, which the comparison I'd make is going to be lost on a lot of people, but it's almost like Big Brother or Survivor, where you have the majority alliance under someone like Boston Rob in Survivor, or Paul in recent Big Brother seasons, or Tyler, where Tyler's Lord Khan, Boston Rob's Lord Khan, or Dan Giesling especially, like misting everyone, and they all think they're in this cooperative thing, but you got the one guy there pulling the strings behind everything. And then Bane is kind of the one on the outside of the alliance, the rock star. And he's like,
rock star.
You know, you guys don't see that this isn't how we should be doing things. It shouldn't be one
on the day of the Sithari's birthday.
It shouldn't all just be one happy family. They're going to have to turn on each other. And little does Bane know that like Khan is doing this the whole time. Khan technically agrees with him. It's just Khan's the one actually putting in the work to operate in the way that Bane is saying they need to operate in. It's just he's doing it with a bigger tent. So it comes down to a tactical discussion or a strategic discussion of how do you defeat the Jedi, where Bane thinks you have to be operating from the back because you don't want to give the Jedi something to unite against, which is how you get the Army of Light, versus what Lord Khan is doing, which is, no, I'm going to mindfuck everyone, but I'm going to still do it as like in terms of military strength.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. I thought the Sith Lords are interesting. Like I really liked Kasim, who's like his sword master. He was
my favorite
probably
character.
my favorite. Even like some of the students, like Serac, is kind of interesting. And I will say that final duel between Serac and Bane, like I was pretty hyped for that, because basically what happens to Bane is he is kind of like the star pupil, even though the fact that he's in his like mid-20s, I guess. And yeah, he's surpassing everyone, and then he challenges, he kills a student in the ring with even though that's kind of strictly forbidden, but allowed for the more powerful students. Then he kind of loses his will to go on because he's scared of what the dark side will do. He gets his ass destroyed by this other student, and then kind of his time at the academy pretty much culminates with his final battle against Serac. It's kind of like a really short and dark version of Harry Potter, I guess. If Harry Potter killed Professor McGonagall later on, which would be kind of epic, not gonna lie.
He's sort of there for Snape dying, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, some of the other professors turn out bad. Like, didn't the professor who had Voldemort on the back of his head die in the end?
Yeah, he died in the end of the first book. Yeah,
and the professor who's kind of like what's the guy's name of the third? He's kind of like the Jedi in this one.
In the third book, Lupin?
maybe it's the second one. The really like
Oh, Gilderoy Lockhart.
yeah. There's
He's
like
he's like Valentine Farfalla.
Farfalla. Yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time reading this. I'm like, oh, it's Gilderoy Lockhart again.
No, I was okay with Farfalla because at least he kind of knew what he was doing and knew that other
Yeah,
people knew what he was doing, whereas
right.
Lockhart knows what
Lockhart's
he's
like a fake,
doing,
right?
but
Yeah.
doesn't think anyone knows what he's doing.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Then Bane turns out to be a huge transphobe.
I mean, yeah, he probably would be based on like some of the shit he says in this. And like there's definitely a lot of people who read the shit Bane says and it's like, yeah, Bane's right. Like he's not supposed to be. That's the point. He's a bad guy. Like he's killing people and
Yeah, I see. That's one of the things that kind of is the same with Githany's journey from the light to the dark side, or from the dark side to open dark side, is with Bane. He has that fight. He's with the student originally that he just beats the absolute shit out of, and then he loses his access to his powers because he's afraid of what the dark side's going to do. Like he's holding himself back, and when
dark side goes no no no.
Yeah, like then Githany kind of trains him back up, and Kasim does as well. But it's his desire for revenge that let on Serac that lets him kind of go back to being this evil McBadass. But that also, for some reason, his desire for revenge with Serac doesn't. It translates into him just wanting to keep his power and not really caring about anything else he does. You don't really get much in that transition.
So like what would you have preferred, do you think?
Well, it just seems like he goes like 0 to 100 pretty quickly on I murdered this other Sith who's objectively going to be kind of an asshole, and he has a huge problem with that. And then he murders Serac is like, yes, this is the thing you were working towards, so that makes sense. But then kind of the next person we see him kill is a toddler almost to get a bit of extra power to sustain himself. And he doesn't have any bad feelings about that. I'm not saying he wouldn't do that.
And
it's just that there's no more moral quandary for him in any way ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I kind of find the Sith to be boring as protagonists, because I don't know, no matter how evil you are, you shouldn't be able to kill toddlers and children en masse without, feeling something. Like that's why Anakin's fall is at least kind of interesting, because he's doing all this shit he knows he shouldn't be, and it's breaking him apart to do it. Same with Jason. Like Jason does feel bad when he has to, like, there's that scene where he fires on the Falcon for the first time. He does it because he's so angry, and because he feels like he's been betrayed and whatever else.
Yeah.
And his anger gets the best of him. It's like the dark side is causing him to fall, and like then after that he's basically just furious and the entire time. And that's what's interesting to me, not just somebody who is just this way because that's the way they are.
Yeah, if there was a bit more after that point of like how he thinks about what he's doing, that would be, even if it was just he's now full shitty. But you only get, the only thing that touches on that later on is the point where he doesn't kill the daughter, calling it unnecessary. So there is some part of him that's still thinking in those terms. It's not just that it's left out because it's not something Bane would think about, because clearly he is thinking about it. Yeah. So if there had been some earlier talk or anything between there after they're talking about what it is, because we do see a bit of like him regretting having to kill Githany because she's drinking the Khan Kool-Aid more than he'd like. But they're
for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. But so like anything during that scene that was a bit more thinking about like this is necessary and this is for my power, rather than just murdered him, murdering you, your other son's dead too. But
yeah. And one of the problems too is like Plagueis does a really good job of at least giving the Sith some, like, Plagueis wants to rule because he thinks the Sith will do a better job of ruling the galaxy, and that the galaxy should be ruled with might. And Palpatine seems to believe the same thing, but with Bane, I don't think you get that same, like, you never really get, and maybe that just speaks to his character. He's more about just being personally strong, because we do get a lot about him wanting to gain all this power because, you know, he's lived on planets like Apatros where it's only the strong that will survive. So maybe that's what's driving him. But I still would have liked to hear maybe, and maybe we will in the next book, I don't remember, a bit about like why he thinks the Sith should rule. Because if he just wants to be powerful, he can do that.
Yeah, because there is that thing that I was talking about earlier where like he talks about how he's doing this towards an end of the Sith taking over. And I don't know that Palpatine necessarily has to think that the Sith can do a better job ruling, just that he really wants to rule. So we at least have some motivating factor for why Palpatine's doing what he's doing that is connected to what he's doing. But with Bane, there's like, Bane wants to be strong, so he does these things. Great. And then there's like a disconnect, and then Bane also wants the Sith to rule the galaxy. He's like, does he want that, or does he need to want that because eventually that's what happens and that's what he leads to? And you can flesh that up a bit more than we kind of got here. And I hope we'll get that maybe in Rule of Two or Dynasty of Evil, but so far I think it should have come up already a little bit.
Right, because, but like, regardless of what Bane wants for himself, he does also want the Sith to win because he contemplates taking on an apprentice and stuff. Taking on an apprentice is one good way to get yourself killed if you're a Sith. He does it, or he thinks that it should be the Rule of Two rather than the Rule of One, because he wants the Sith tradition to continue. But we don't really get a good explanation for why the Sith is so important to him, especially where he's just kind of thrown off the shackles of the Brotherhood of Darkness or whatever else.
Yeah, and like looking at who I feel like there must have been other better options for him to idolize more than Revan. And I think that just does come from KOTOR being such a huge influence on Drew. But like, if you're thinking about it from an in-universe perspective, like Revan, Exar Kun, or he's from Sweden, like Frieden. There's a lot more of the just power for power's sake characters, and I think Revan, especially at this point where there wasn't even the Valkorian stuff, Revan was more on the Caedus and Vader side of like, I'm taking this power because I think I'm doing something with it, and maybe I've gone too far down that path. Like if I was just to pick a Sith Lord that was similar to Bane, it would not be Revan, or that represented what Bane wanted the Sith to represent. Revan, like Malak even.
Yeah, Malak would be a better choice, just even because like he does do the whole, you know, he does the power grab after he's learned a lot from Revan, but you're right. I mean, a lot of it is because I guess most of my Revan knowledge does come from KOTOR. I wasn't super engaged in like the books or anything, so I don't know. It is a weird choice.
I haven't read the other Old Republic books, so I am kind of looking forward to that, but they're by the same author, so I'm kind of curious to see how Revan does get presented there, whether it's more in line with what he's saying for Bane here. I'm only talking about kind of the KOTOR presentation as well, or KOTOR 2 with how Kreia talks about Revan.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Kreia would have said to Bane, but probably
a lot
nothing that Bane would have wanted to hear.
Yeah, I think you could make some connections between Bane and Kreia with how the Rule of Two kind of comes about, because Kreia is definitely more on the work in the shadows. Yeah, don't let them. Kreia is the Aaron Burr of the Sith, and that seems to be more where Bane wants to go with that. But in terms of the brute force, if it was more like a mix of Kreia and Malak rather than Revan.
Yeah, I am interested to read the other books too. And as we mentioned, this is a Drew Karpyshyn novel. He's really quite prolific in the kind of genre for like, especially like video game adaptions and stuff. Like I think he did all the Mass Effect books and whatever else. But I really, really like his writing. I know I mentioned that earlier, but it's kind of refreshing because it's very, very easy to follow. You said you read it all in one night, right?
Yeah, it was only like, I think, I did it I did the first two parts, went and did something else for an hour or so, because sitting there reading through a whole book can be a lot. And then I just came back and finished it in the same night. It is a lot of fun. Like, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to like trash the book or anything.
He's
These
Canadian as well, I believe.
Yeah, these are criticisms of Bane the character, and there are some criticisms I have of just how that's presented, which are more of the book side, but it is more about like Bane and Bane's philosophy, which obviously, as we've talked about, isn't meant to be like the correct hero. He is at best an anti-hero or a villain.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I think the world building in the book is pretty well done. The only thing is I would say that the war that's going on, the new Sith Jedi war, is missing quite a bit of context. Because we know what's going on with the Brotherhood of Darkness, but we don't know how long the war's been going on, what the galaxy is like, really. I guess it's not super important to the story. But other than that, I thought the book flowed really nicely. It didn't stay, and I guess maybe it stayed in the Academy a little too long, but not a super long novel. I guess it was just kind of refreshing in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Especially where like Alphabet Squad 1 and 2 are a little less slim than this.
They're a lot more plotting. The tone is definitely very different. Like it's a lot more actiony. There's basically something actiony happens on every page.
Yeah. What was your favorite fight of the book? Did you have one?
Probably the one where he beats Cyric. Or it might have been the first one with Cyric, because I was kind of expecting that he'd just win and then keep going on this upward trajectory. So I am glad that he faced that kind of challenge, because I was starting to be afraid that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Where he hasn't received any training in the Force at all, and he goes and blows most things up.
Bites that guy's finger off. That was pretty cool.
That was fun.
That was fun.
I like the bartender as well.
Yeah, it's I was listening to the audiobook, and the narrator, I think it was Jonathan Davis, gives him the classic accent. I was like, oh, it's still,
maybe not.
It's still not great. Yeah, I really like the bartender too. I really enjoyed the scenes where he was just part of the larger galaxy. Actually, like I said, the card game went on for quite a while, but I was really enjoying it, especially that last scene there. And then he gets jumped by the Republic.
There were the couple scenes earlier on in the book that were kind of just focusing on other people in the war, like when the like other than the prologue, there was the scene with the one battle with Lord Khan where he starts fighting the Jedi, and those scenes felt a little weird to me, like just kind of strange where they came up and how they got executed. But
yeah, I thought that the Lord Khan stuff was unnecessary, and even the Githany stuff when Bane's not yet there. I did like seeing the Splinter in like the Jedi Order, so that's like the Hoth stuff and the Farfalla stuff. Just because it was kind of nice to have such a different perspective. Like it's almost exhausting reading somebody who's just like so evil and so dark. Oh, I hate children. Oh, I'm gonna stomp on this baby. Whatever. And then the Jedi are like a lot more noble and
I got some pretty heavy Jorah Sabaoth vibes from Lord Hoth.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
He's clearly shitty at first, but then he has one conversation with his dead buddy. He's like, huh, maybe I'll just not be that anymore, and is immediately everything's better. And him and Farfalla are best friends from then on. I thought that went a little bit too far.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite Star Warsy, but I do agree. I did like the idea of kind of a Jedi, because it was a Jedi going bad, but not in a like dumb way. He was just like the war on Ruusan was just grinding everybody down.
Yeah.
And
I just thought it was a bit much that like all it took to get him to stop was his friend being like, hey, maybe don't. It's like, oh, don't.
Yeah, that's what I was like. And it does kind of make Hoth a bit difficult to not relate to, but a bit difficult to sympathize with when he's just being a complete dick. When he sent Farfalla off, and then Farfalla comes with his reinforcements and saves him from a Sith ambush, and the first thing Hoth does is yell at him.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, what about the other convoys? I got the other convoys, bro. I think there's a lot more Farfalla in the next couple books, because I think we get his Padawan a bit more. I think
He's
that is
like
rule
a
of 2.
half Bothan or something.
Yeah, Farfalla is a half Bothan, and I think his apprentices as well. No, I think his
So
apprentice is human. I forget. It was a
Gavin
while ago.
Darklater just fucking furious somewhere.
Yeah, I was told this couldn't happen.
Wrong hole, Gavin. Oh, good Christ.
You just there was a cut scene with Asir and Mirax. Look, it's been a year. I don't know if I should tell him.
That's my fucking belly button. He loves it, but he's expecting a child.
I don't know if I should do I tell him to stop? Do I correct him? He might be getting really embarrassed now.
He came up the other day and said humans and Bothans must not be compatible. I couldn't break it to him.
I thought he was doing it on purpose. I wasn't gonna kink shame him.
Yeah, we gotta love the support of us here.
It was a bit weird that there is the one female character in this book who gets. Well, I think there's technically 2 who get lines, because there's the one in the Gloomwalkers.
Yeah, one of the
when the sniper
Republic
scene.
officers is a woman, I believe, as well.
But Githany is kind of the main female character, and almost every page that she's on, there's a line gauging just how much anyone wants to have sex with her.
And it's always a lot. Like, she's probably number 1 on the
Corn Thirst list.
Bangability chart, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like 90% of her character for a long time. And then it turned into whether or not she was just lusting after Bane or lusting after Khan.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing about reading Star Wars books too, is like I'm not asking for a bang session, but handle stuff like tension and powers associated with sexual dynamics in an interesting way, not just Bane wanted to kiss the pretty lady. He did, but he's also a 300-pound jacked up guy does nothing but jerk himself off of the dark side all day, and I don't know, there could have been a more interesting kind of adult dynamic between them. I'm not saying I need 10 pages of banging or anything, or even anything like that, but
Yeah, there's the one scene where he's jealous of I forget the guy's name, but the one that she was kicked out of the order or left the order because she wanted to have sex with him, and he's like, well, did you actually love him, or were you just trying to piss him off because you could have sex with me instead, and that'd be cool. It basically everything with that read like a pubescent teenage guy would just be writing in his fanfic almost, and there's a lot of that in Star Wars. Yeah, it was really weird. Didn't love that.
On the other hand, you get that scene in Legacy of the Force where Tahiri tries to seduce Ben. He's
that was
13 at the time and she's 19, and that was
not epic.
I'm glad we're not getting that too frequently, I guess. But yeah, I do like that Githany was ultimately destroyed by the thought bomb, because I wasn't looking forward to having her around for a whole bunch of other books.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at any of this where I was thinking wait, does Githany turn out to be Darth Zana? It's I don't think so, but is that what the... But
I used her skeleton in the thumbnail today.
Githany?
Yeah, because she's in the Jedi versus Sith. Literally everything that happens in the last third of this book is in the Jedi versus Sith comics.
Mm-hmm.
So Githany's in it, all the Sith Lords are in it. The healing bit is in it where he dangles the little girl over the pot. Mm-hmm. And then it goes a little bit further with Xana and her cousin, which is the intro for next book's kind of interesting. It's been a while since I've read the later two, but I remember Xana's also pretty. She's too edgy for me as well.
Yeah, these are definitely edgy books.
Yeah, these could exist in the Warhammer universe.
yeah. There's kind of a lot. We were talking about this a couple of days ago or yesterday even, but there is a lot of RPG style fighting, mm-hmm. where it's very clear that it's okay, these are KOTOR abilities turned into book form almost, and they're the parts with the thought bomb, they almost read like a Dragon Ball Z, where lend me your energy.
It's funny because the Dragon Ball Z one is called a spirit bomb. And this one's called a thought bomb, yet this is the one that traps your spirit, and Dragon Ball Z is powered up by people's thoughts. So it should be named the opposite way, and I always get them mixed up. Always.
Yeah. Like I was, my mental picture for that scene, I stopped picturing Beefcake Bane and just started picturing Goku. Like that was literally how I was thinking, just Dragon Ball Z animation Goku.
I do like I like how Lord Khan goes completely crazy and he falls for the thought bomb, and I do like how it's activated with just a clap. That was kind of cool. That's a cool scene in the comic as well. And everyone just gets like fucking annihilated.
Yeah. It worked out well. They Lord Hoth got a bunch of people in. They all exploded. Mm-hmm. And that was
not to
great.
Be saved until Kyle Katarn comes around. Like what's that? 1,000 years later. So they're basically in torment until Kyle Katarn saves them, which is pretty epic.
The Valley of the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
But anything major you want to touch on still? I'm going to check my notes because I think I had one or two other things, but
I'm going to check my notes too. I actually didn't take too many for this book. It's a pretty simple book. A lot of time is spent talking about kind of this interior battle that Bane is having about whether the Sith are corrupt and whether the Order's weak now. And I enjoy that, but it would have been nice to get more perspective, I guess. Even like we get a lot of Bane learning about the past Sith down he's studying in the ruins of in the library of the Sith temple. More of like learning what he was reading would have been cool. That's something Plagueis does really well. Like it presents a lot of ideas. Other than that, I like the bouncers. They're kind of cool. They're in the comics as well.
Yeah. The thing that really tips Xana over the edge in the dark side is that her bouncy pet got killed.
Yeah.
Oh, I did find one thing where, because Kopex is the one that tells Farfalla about Enhoth about the the bomb.
Like, give me a good death.
Yeah. It's like, this is very urgent. Also, lightsaber duel. Lightsaber duel.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Lord Kopex fought valiantly despite his wounds, though he was no match for a fresh and unentered Jedi master. In the end, Farfalla fulfilled his promise. So, like, in the end implies this was a relatively lengthy affair for them. Like, okay, I'm going to head out now. We've got something that's kind of important to do.
It's like to imagine that Farfalla is just hanging Both and Dong all day. You know, he's hairy, so, like, he doesn't wear pants, but he should. You know what I mean? I don't know. Thought about it a lot during the book.
I can see that. I can see a lot.
Funny. Any other notes you wanted to bring up? I'm just looking at mine, and I can't fucking understand what I wanted to read.
Might have one more. That was just a video. Oh no, that's the same one I just brought up. But yeah, I think you can kind of.
Oh, one thing that I thought was funny is that the Gloom Walkers have what they think is a secret symbol amongst themselves of pounding twice over their chest. Like, this is a symbol that only the Gloom Walkers know. Like, bro, everyone knows what that means. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like, I've chosen the single universal symbol that everyone uses for this.
It was just the Gloom Walkers who knew it. No. Like whenever Charlie steals a Reddit joke. It's like, I made this.
There was also the part where he was like picking his name, and apparently everyone else just uses their real name still, and Bane was told to pick a new one. But and then Xana doesn't pick a new one; she's just Xana. She should have been like Darth Rain. That would have been cool. That was her nickname.
That's a cool name.
But
if your name is Kopej and you can choose another one for sure.
But I was just thinking during that scene, just like Kopex is like telling him, okay, pick your Sith name. It's like, you know what? I thought about this a lot. I'm going to be Darth Bane, or I'm going to be Bane. Bane of the Sith. It's like, oh, sorry, we got one of those already. You got to pick another one.
Yeah. I mean, why would you want... That's also a rough start. Bane of the Sith? Like,
yeah.
why not, like, good friend of the Sith?
Well, Sirach brings that up later, like,
Yeah,
you are the Bane of
you
the
are.
Sith. Oh shit, I didn't think
Like,
about
oh
that.
shit, I shouldn't have chose that name.
Oh man. Because they're making fun of me.
So you deserve it. Your name is embarrassing. I forget which one of the teachers. It might be Kopej, who's got the really long nails too. And I'm just like, being a Sith Lord is not an excuse to not fucking, achieve basic hygiene standards. Like, cut
No,
your
that's
fucking nails.
Cordis, I think.
Oh, Cordis, yeah.
Yeah, because he's got the living luxuriously. The nails is a sign
Right.
that he doesn't have to work very often. I think that might be a Victorian thing. But
Cut your goddamn nails, dude. Like, you're like the weird kid in high school. Like, I don't know. Cut your nails, man. Bane
Yeah.
123. Fine, then I will be Darth Bane 2017. With
it's like a Discord hashtag in front of it.
with a period in there.
Anything's better than Darth Dessel, so
Yeah. Dez. It reminds me of Aunt Beru going, Luke. All right, Dez, it works just as well.
But I had to go to Dress Day Station to pick some Ducata stew. But yeah, so sorry.
I was just saying, did you like the first bit of the book when they were on Patros?
I actually did enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the setup for him there. I think you can sort of carry that forward into kind of how he turns into who he is, but
Yeah.
still a little bit weaker. But I did enjoy that part.
I like how it's almost hard labor, and his job is like holding up a 60-pound drill for 12 hours a day and just getting like incredibly jacked. Like, what the hell is hard labor then? But yeah, that's all I had for this book. Should we just give our general impressions on it? I think we've kind of made it.
I think we kind of have. We can give our rankings though, and that might.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna open. I'm gonna open that and see if I can get it on the stream without opening the audio.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to get somewhere that we can put these that'll be a bit better for people to keep track of without me having to like record the screen from the previous episode. But
well, there's got to be some way we can make it available.
maybe we'll put it in like a Google Doc somewhere, but I'm just gonna throw that up on screen on stream. People can kind of get an idea from the audio, I guess, where we're putting it. But we have S tier for the top as usual, then A, B, C, D, and F tiers. We decided E, we didn't need that many tiers, but we did need an F.
No, we decided no E because E stands for epic.
Right, because that would have to go above S. So right now, the only F tier that we have is I didn't like Champions of the Force very much. So right now, that is the champion of the F. What do you think you're doing here?
Can we get an F for Champions of the Force in the chat, please?
Champions of the Fort. That would be... That sounds like a good game. Oh,
yeah, it does.
Why is that happening? Oh, I didn't pause the video.
We should just name the things like based on shit we say. Like number 1 would be epic, and then F would be not epic, and then like A could be like decent, or like, oh, what did I say all the time? Very readable.
Yes.
Or that would be like a B.
Then after that, it'd be very breathy.
Breathy. That's a D. That's a hard D. What else?
Where would Hang and Dong go? Would that be a tier? Because you throw that out a lot.
I kind of want to move on from like Hang and Dong to like drop and meat, or like something, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, where are you gonna put this for you? I'm not sure. I'm going between.
So I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, but like looking at where I put other stuff, I don't know that I can put it above a lot of the X-Wing books, and they're like kind of like we talked about having be a slice of life. Yeah. I don't like it as much as a lot of the Rogue Squadron books. Like, I think it is fun for me, but it doesn't really go past the fun mark, where I don't like a lot of the characters. I don't think they're especially great. And I think for me, it's kind of a lower C. If I like it more than an X-Wing book, it's more than Isard's Revenge. But I think that's kind of where it's falling for me in the C tier.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling from our conversation that I liked it quite a bit more than you. For me, it's definitely not an S. For me, it's either bottom of the A's or top B's. Right now, I'm thinking it's probably because I just don't feel like I liked it more than MedStar. I didn't like it more than Alphabet Squadron. Probably, I definitely didn't like it more than Rogue Squadron. I think for me, it's probably a B.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see
That's
if they
fair.
can.
I was thinking maybe B, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in 6 months when we do the list rearranging again.
No, never again. We can never change our opinions on anything.
Fair enough. I wouldn't dare.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's where those are going. We'll get either a graphic updated for this.
People are going to be mad about this, by the way.
Whatever. They'll be mad about everything.
That's true.
I feel like they're we're allowed to have opinions, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
So we got some emails. Should we talk about those, or is there anything else you want to say about the book? Or
I think that's good for now. We can go on to the emails. I think we missed a few last time, maybe, but no. We covered pretty much everything last time. So we are just on to the Darth Bane episodes. We are going to do the email questions first. If you guys have any questions in chat that you would like us to answer on YouTube here, just do at Corey's Datapad so I can have them highlighted. And we'll get to that after the email questions.
Can I just say something?
No.
My cat did something very Bane-like. He left a face on my back step the other day.
Left a face?
A mouse's face and spine.
Jesus.
I took a picture of it. I can show you later.
Oh,
you
thanks.
want me to send it to here? I'll send it to you right now if you want it.
Sure.
Okay, sweet. I sent it to Charlie, and he was like, "That is fucking disgusting." Here. Okay, I just sent it to you on Discord.
On your Discord? Okay.
I don't think you can see the spine. You can see the face and some guts, though.
Oh, I'm gonna put it up to the. I won't put this up to the camera. That's disgusting. That is pretty gross.
It's like literally a face, right? Like you thought I was probably exaggerating.
That's like the bottom of the eye. Yeah, I'm not. I was gonna just show chat, but like this. My channel would get shut down. This is pretty grody.
Kelsey woke up before me, and she sent me a picture of that. So like that's what I woke up to one day. I'll talk about it on the stream we do tonight as well, just so I can share the beautiful story around with everybody else.
All right. Will you do the first email?
Yeah. So who's first? Let me see.
Actually, no. I don't have to go to the bathroom yet.
I'll go to. I guess is Joel first, maybe.
I think the last one that we didn't answer would have been from Cody there, so starting just above that.
Okay. So I guess the first email would be from a friend of the show, Justin, who says, "So Corey, has Ice become Booster Tarek?" What's he saying then?
Oh, that's a question related to my tabletop series.
Okay,
that's
all right, cool. All right, Justin. Let's keep it separate, okay, bud? I'm just joking.
This Justin doesn't watch any of that, so he has no idea. But yes, Iceman will definitely paint that whole ISD if he gets to keep it.
That's a lot of paint.
Yeah, it'll be expensive.
So Nicolo has our next email, or Nick. He says, "I'd like to start off with thanking both of you for the podcast. I think, like a lot of us, he has no friends who read these books in real life, so it's nice to have the discussion. I agree with that completely. He's currently listening or reading the first book of the Black Fleet Crisis, Before the Storm, but I'm already setting my eyes upon the next book. The Revenge of the Sith novelization has been on the list for some time, and I'm thinking of picking that up from the used bookstore next. But on my research about it, I heard that the Dark Lord trilogy is even better, as it contains Revenge of the Sith and 2 other books. Do you guys recommend reading the entire trilogy, or is Revenge of the Sith a standout book that I should read next?" Might as well read all 3. They're all 3 of them are good.
Yeah. If you can only read one for whatever reason, financially, time constraints, then do Revenge of the Sith. Yes. But if you can read them all, read them all. They're all really good.
And I think they're all an audiobook too, if you like that way. And let's be honest, if there's a book if there's a book you really want to read and you can't afford it, just fucking find it online. It's a book. It's human knowledge. Just read it. Anyway.
Okay. You got new comments on your podcast?
We got a comment. Yeah.
On the Grand Admiral Thrawn's downfall episode?
Yeah, I'm going to need a few minutes to read all this and check it before I say it out loud. It says cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Then our next question is from Joel, who says, "Hey Tapcaf, my questions for the Darth Bane discussion is this. With so much of the Old Republic era remaining a mystery, how much wholesale could you bring Bane's story into new canon? We already have a Darth Bane because of the Clone Wars Season 6, and Bane himself was a Lucas concept, at least in terms of the name and the idea of the Rule of Two. Also, what parts of Bane's story, especially this particular era of the final Sith War, would you keep and would you streamline for new canon? Would you keep the Brotherhood in the final Battle of Busan and all that, or would you make changes so as not to be an exact copy of the Legends Old Republic stuff?" So do you have any thoughts on this first?
I mean, it's kind of tough because like a lot of the Rusan stuff was made it a necessity to help with like consistency issues in the lore. But I still do like most of it. I like the idea of the Jedi inflicting a massive loss against the Sith and the Sith going and hiding for 1,000 years. That is kind of what they allude to in the Phantom Menace. So this way is as good as any to do that, I think.
Yeah, and it kind of remains to be seen just how much of KOTOR and Tor and stuff will be brought in, because that doesn't have the same impact on trying to make the sequel trilogy, especially, that some of this earlier stuff does. It depends on if they want to make more movies back then or TV series or whatever. So it probably... Okay, Trebek. But I don't think it'll all be brought in wholesale. I think certain elements of it will be. Kind of like the post-Endor stuff, or more the Rebellion era stuff kind of has been handled. But it really depends, because it's such an uncovered area. And even High Republic, which is the next big set of projects we're getting, are after this, so that won't really give us too much information, but maybe some.
Yeah, the Bane we see in the Clone Wars looks a little different as well. He's not nearly as thick, which to me is a big mistake. Big mistake. Anyway, next email comes from Gustav.
And I'll be right back while you handle this one.
What's that? Okay, yeah. So the next email comes from Gustav, who says, "Do you think Darth Vader would still have been able to gain a reputation as a feared Sith Lord while maintaining his human appearance? Would this human Vader be superior or inferior to the cyborg one? Also, I am wondering whether you think it would have affected the duel with Obi-Wan on the Death Star when Vader was still human." This is a tough one because Star Wars Legends, like without spoiling the young man about to read the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Vader does kind of talk about his power lapsing a little bit, and I think that was even inconsistent sometimes in the Legends, but in canon they've taken the approach that his power didn't really fluctuate a whole lot depending on whether he was a cyborg or not, and that in fact his constant anger at being in a cyborg form has sort of, if anything, made him a little bit more powerful, as has the loss of Padme, more powerful in the dark side anyway. So would he have been less powerful as a Sith Lord? I don't think so. I think he'd be maybe a little less frightening, just because one of the things about Vader is we actually hear about this quite well in the Thrawn books, and funny enough, I'm pretty sure it's which new canon book is it? I can't remember. There's one of the new canon books where they basically pick up Vader after the Battle of Yavin, and it's all about how he's kind of just really creepy. But yeah, thank you for the amazing question, Gustav.
Yes, thank you.
And do you want to read Anthony's, Corey, or should I?
We are on Rule of Two from Anthony. "Hey, Corey Neck, wanted to get your thoughts on how feasible you think the Rule of Two doctrine really is. With everything we know about the Sith, feels like a miracle that the doctrine and the effort to take over the galaxy through subterfuge survived a decade, let alone a millennium. I know this is a universe with space wizards whose major weakness is space lizards, so anything is possible, but I just can't help but think there should be a few more Sith Lords who's laying the groundwork for some future Sith Lord to take over the galaxy, and I want my cake now. I know Tenebris broke the rule, but with how self-serving individual Sith are, I feel like there should have been a few more that broke the rule or made a grand power play for themselves." I think we both covered that. We kind of agree with that, or at least
Tenebris did break the rule. Because he does have that second one, Venomous, but I never got the feeling he was actually... I thought he was kind of going to be a Darth Maul type of thing.
Where it was kind of going to be up to whether Venomous could kill Plagueis, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, as this is all happening, there is a planet with thousands of Sith Lords, known as the Lost Tribe of the Sith, and they are doing pretty epic over there. And there are other secret Sith societies, of course. I don't know if actually maybe not. Maybe there weren't other secret Sith societies because like there was no one Sith at this point or anything like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, in Star Wars, there's always more Sith hiding out somewhere.
Yeah.
Lost
They're
Star.
very patient.
Yes. Or they're just stuck on a planet.
Yeah. And have to be patient.
So the last question in the emails is from Asher, a frequent communicator with the podcast. He was wondering what our opinion is on how the Sith are brought back in canon and Legends after Return of the Jedi. In canon, we see Palpatine come back in Rise of Skywalker. In Legends, we also see Palpatine return in addition to characters like Darth Krayt and the One Sith, along with Jason Solo's turn in Legacy of the Force. Any thoughts? Corey, any thoughts?
Yeah, like I think I've been generally not fond of Palpatine coming back. Like I was fine with it in the first Dark Empire. I thought it was more fun there. But I still don't love bringing the villains back that way. Like I really didn't like it in Rise of Skywalker, and then when he gets brought back for the 23rd and 24th time in Empire's End, then too much. But I'm on record as being a Jason Solo stan, so even if I think the way Vergier gets kind of handled is kind of dumb, and Lumaya is kind of dumb, but like it's a different type of Sith that Caedus ends up being. It's just like Darkseid and trying to take that mantle. So the Sith Order really does end with Palpatine, and it's just the Darkseid trying to get a hold there, or people using the Darkseid to whatever ends later. And Lumaya is kind of the closest we get to that last kind of Sith. And I don't like the One Sith quite as much, but yeah.
The One Sith could have been sort of compelling if they had, because I did like that scene in Legacy of the Force where like they find the One Sith, like that's kind of cool, but there's like so much else going on in that era that it's kind of overwhelming. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. It's just hard because Star Wars has trouble finding new compelling hero and villain factions that will last more than just one arc. Even like the Vong, like they were in a 19-book arc, but then they're pretty much gone. Reappear briefly in the Legacy comics, but they are almost nothing in Legacy of the Force besides for like the world brain on Coruscant, and same with Fate of the Jedi. So
yeah, and then the Vong get entirely dealt with by putting the entire remnants of the galactic-wide invasion force onto Zonama Seacot. You almost never see any of them again. Like you do get one or two, but they're kind of just gone.
They come back in the comics when they are supposed to help Galaxy fix itself, and it doesn't work out that well.
But yeah, so I think that's all for the email questions today. If you have any questions for our next episode, which will be on TV shows, unless we decide something else is going to happen, you can send those. I
would say this one's still up in the air.
Yeah. But you can send whatever questions you want us to answer for the next episode into tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com. There's a link in the description, or the email's in the description. And
if you want to send feelings about our rankings and how we didn't put this to S tier, you can go ahead and search Corey's Datapad on Twitter. DMs are open. Make sure you let him know exactly how you feel about him. I think he said the word despising your favorite book.
Yeah. That's what fun means. It means the opposite.
Somebody clip that.
But yeah, so you can send in emails for that, or if you have any questions that you want to get in for Rule of Two, we'll be covering that in 2 weeks, in Rule of 2 weeks. So that'll be the 27th. And now we got a few questions in the chat. Captain Rex for Life says, can you do more Legacy era content? And I think both of us will eventually be doing more Legacy era content. And I
did a Legacy era video the other day, just covering the entire Second Galactic Civil War. You can check that out.
Yeah. And one of my first videos was about the how Corellia rebelled.
Corellia, yeah.
And
that was a good video.
That's still one of my most viewed videos. So
pretty epic.
It's only been downhill from there. And we did talk about how in a couple weeks, as you're getting ready for second fatherhood, we're going to be moving to a bit more in the comics for a little while as you get situated. So Legacy era is another one that's kind of in the mix for possibilities there.
Get your empires all crimsoned, perhaps.
Yeah, we'll see what we do there. But our next question is from Die Ghostfish. I got in here late. Did you guys go over how they got Cortosis entirely wrong, or the Ore sounded more like Beskar or Frickite? Cortosis weakened stuff versus all non-saber, even blasters.
Yeah, I did kind of notice that a little bit with the mining, but we didn't talk about that now. But that is a good point because it's supposed to be fairly brittle.
It's pretty much just anti-saber stuff. And I kind of just thought about like, okay, ignore the stuff about the ships and just think about it like, oh, they were using it for armor because this is Jedi versus Sith war. But
yeah, exactly. And it's funny because Plagueis opens up in a Cortosis mine as well. Yeah.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah. You need more Jar Jar.
The start of the Rule of Two and the end of the Rule of Two.
Mm-hmm. Which I think Bane would have been cool with that if he knew that there was going to be a immortal Sith Emperor, which Palpatine never ended up being, but he probably would have thought that was pretty epic.
Yeah, Palpatine ends up taking over the galaxy for less time than some previous Sith had control for.
That's the thing. Like, okay, maybe the Jedi would have eventually won against, like, if the Brotherhood of Darkness won on Ruusan, maybe the Jedi would have eventually fought back and defeated them. But, like, Palpatine had control of the galaxy for, like, 3 months. No, like 20 years.
Yeah, the Jedi were gone for 20 years, and they weren't even really gone. Because it turns out, if you read enough of the expanded universe, all the Jedi survived.
Yeah.
The next question is from Der Benson. What did you think about the whole Jedi kids that have been Padawans for like 2 days, a lightsaber and a pat on the back, then sending them to the front?
There's a lot more of that in the Sith versus Jedi comics, but yeah, it's kind of, I liked it because it showed how brutal and like just fucked up the war on Ruusan was.
Yeah, one thing that did kind of stick out to me was Sirac's length of his apprenticeship. It was like 20 years. Of course, he was the top student.
Yeah. Like Bane's rolled out of the... It's like you show up to school on your first day and like some fucking 12th grader punches you in the nose and calls you a loser.
Yeah. I killed you. You're weaker. This is the way of the Sith. You're weaker now. So if you ever pass me, then that's weaker being killed by stronger. But if I do it now, then that's not justified because eventually I have to be passed by you. So
it's like LeBron James dunking on the kids that his son plays basketball with.
USS Chicago asks, what is their old Republic fighter that looks like the Z95 and that it actually inspires design? I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know old Republic ships other than the Auric was mentioned in this book. They're still using the same starfighters. The Auric's the one from the Old Republic as well. It's quickly name dropped. Bikeanon asks, this one's interesting. Not really related too much to this book, but do you feel the Legacy era in general is just kind of a bummer? It feels depressing that the last Legends novels basically seeing the worst version of everyone's future. And I kind of relate to that a little bit because it does get a bit exhausting that the galaxy is always at war. So that's why it would have been nice if... I think that they could have maybe taken a break and moved on without going straight to the Legacy comics, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it sets up an issue that would have existed for the next period of Legends that we kind of have with new canon, where we know what the galaxy is heading towards. And it wasn't quite as defined because it is a longer period of time. But like, sure, maybe it would have been fun to find out how the Corellian Confederation ends up back in the Galactic Alliance, because Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi ends with them still being a distinct faction. And then they're kind of back in and gone by Legacy. But I don't like when you have those big gaps where you know kind of what happens, or you know what the end point is. I kind of preferred... one of the things I did like about like the Yuzon Vong War and going forward from there is that they did it sequentially. So it was always open options. Yep,
I agree. Just hard to make you care without using the main characters, especially when it's a book. That's kind of the main problem they were dealing with. But yeah, it does sort of get like Well, my main problem is Han is the better part of 80, and he's fist fighting with Mandalorians in Fate of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, we can do a couple more. I will do an office tour when I have my bookshelves. They're supposed to go right there, but there's just boxes right there.
Mm-hmm.
Joel is asking, what would Bane think of Valkorion and Vitiate? Probably dislike them. Dislike him.
He'd probably like the pretty sick fashion though.
They did put a lot of time into their design elements.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty clean looking.
Yep.
What's the best ship in any era of Star Wars? Nebula and Rakusan, I think, are our answers.
I like the MC-90 more than the Nebula personally.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, this is breaking news are happening now.
If we got a good look at the Blue Diver, I'd probably like that even more.
You mean any look at the Blue Diver?
Yeah.
And
or the Mediator. I like those big new Mon Cal ships.
The Mediator?
Yep.
And our final question, I think, for tonight, Mitchell989 asks, do you think Revan made more than one holocron or just the one Bane found? I think other Revan holocrons have shown up in other places, right? So Bane just got one that was kind of
shit.
Rough recording, left in an ancient temple for a while.
Yeah. I will say it was nice revisiting Lee Han. It is very, very similar to what we get in KOTOR, of course.
That was one other thing that I was kind of thinking about with like the trek from the temple to the Valley of the Sith Lords, where just think like there to Dresde to the Valley. It's like in KOTOR, that's like, oh, that's a 5-minute trek, and then they're talking about the conversation that happened. Does he know how to get? Will he survive? Like, oh yeah, it's right there.
Like I can, like you can see it. Like, see them? He's twirling his lightsaber. That's him right there. He's done all of them already. He's just standing there, just spinning his lightsaber around, like. Whoop.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. So thank you for all the questions. If you had any that we didn't answer, there were, I think, a couple more. You can send them to tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com. And we will be covering something next week, maybe TV shows, maybe something else, and then Rule of Two after that. So anything else from you, Eck?
No, I think that's it. We will be streaming afterwards. Charlie has it set to an hour from now instead of 2 hours from now.
Whatever.
I can tell him to push it back.
I'm okay with it. Like if we were recording the podcast at the regular time, that would be a problem because we would just be ending right then. But we did it an hour early, so
that'd be not super epic.
So I'm just gonna get some food, but
okay. So keep an eye out for your local Herman Cain fleet. Should be appearing over your town at any point. But that's it for me. Good night.